Welcome to the world beyond belief. Our held beliefs are the only things that limit what's possible. Conversely, beliefs are the very things which allow us to expand our possibilities. It's the premise of these podcasts that by examining our beliefs and seeing them for what they are, they're simply beliefs, it's possible for us to change our lives for the better. So the purpose of the world beyond belief is to examine beliefs, not to prove them right or wrong, but to look at their effects on your individual life and also on our collective consciousness. Hi, my name is Paul Marco. Hi, my name is Paul Marco, and welcome to another episode of World Beyond Belief. I'll be your host this evening, and with me here in the studio is my producer and co-host, Mindy Erkin.
Hey, everybody.
Today we're going to talk about and expose the role of the human ego in creating and maintaining your beliefs. Remember last week we started talking about that everybody thought that their beliefs were true, and that if they were to talk to somebody and be able to fully explain exactly why they hold that belief, the person that they explained it to would, of course, agree that it's a great belief to have. And the third thing is, everybody believes that their beliefs are based on real data. And I explained last week that basically your belief is the criteria for picking the data to support your beliefs. So you have actually there a little do loop. It keeps you stuck in the same beliefs that you always had.
That's the key word, isn't it? Stuck. That's what your beliefs do. They keep you stuck.
They keep you stuck. Let's go back to the first idea, that everybody believes that their beliefs are true. Actually, it's not usually the case. Your ego that decides your beliefs, truthfulness is low on his criteria of deciding on which beliefs to have. There's many more things, and we'll go over a lot of them in this hour, that are more important to the ego than the truthfulness of the belief. And then I was thinking, most people, if they're aware that they have a belief, generally don't do much investigating the other side to find out how valid their beliefs really are. I'll give you a prime example that always comes to mind on this topic. I like to hold the belief that there's some validity in the practice of astrology. And I think we were all conditioned by public school, certainly by the newspaper that put the astrology section in with the comics, that there's no actual validity to this belief. And a lot of people feel free to pick on me about this belief, and I say, oh, I don't know how you can believe in that. I would never believe in that. But every time I ask them then, well, how many astrology books have you read? Well, what have you actually done to debunk it? I mean, I've been reading on it for years, and it seems to have some validity to me. But nobody really, very seldom does someone really look at their beliefs and say, I believe this, maybe I should check out the other side. No, your data's picked by your own beliefs. So you stay in that do loop.
Yeah, but there's another factor to this one, because I think this one is a really great example of conditioning by way of ridiculing things that are really important, because astrology, from my understanding, is used quite frequently and diligently by those in control. And it's one of the tools that they use to control. So in order to have it just for themselves, so it does become a tool of control, they have to ridicule it to the rest of the population. So that's like programmed in by having it be a, the horoscope reading in the newspaper. Oh, that's just silly, that's ridiculous. And then people just shut it down because it's like one of those lines in the sand that you've crossed between believability and unbelievability.
Right.
I don't know, does that make any sense?
Oh, that's the bottom line. That's how your beliefs, that's how you're controlled by your beliefs. Strongly held beliefs is like having a ring in your nose for the controlling elite. They can pull you around anytime they want to. And they do it mostly by your beliefs. Down through your life, basically, a lot of your morality and probably your religious belief was given to you by your parents when you were young. Very seldom does someone naturally go investigate how true that actual belief is. Actually, in some beliefs, in some religions, there's a belief that if you question the belief, it's an actual sin, just by looking into it.
Yeah, that one really sucks.
Yeah, so you hold that belief. And then in school, very seldom are we taught to do any critical thinking about what information we're given. So we absorb the information and unquestioningly regurgitate it. You know, the process of picking it up here and dropping it there reminds me of an old fraternity hazing trick that I heard about, where there was an olive on the floor and the fraternity, the pledge, was told to pick it up with his butt cheeks and walk across the room and drop it into a little champagne glass or something.
You sure it wasn't a martini glass?
It could have been a martini. It could have been a martini glass. But that's the process of education in the world today. But anyway, we're not taught to be critical and questioning. And then there's the mass media. The mass media uses technical tricks to put you in a hypnotic state so that they can force feed you beliefs. So we sit there with our eyes open and our mouths open, just absorbing these beliefs that create a hive mind. We never question them. Very seldom do we question them. If it's said on the news in the morning, it's taken as the gospel. For example, the 911 incident, where Muslims supposedly flew planes into skyscrapers in New York. We were told what to believe from the media right from the jump. And I want to play you James Corbett's account of the official story that most of us bought hook, line, and sinker. When you hear this, you're going to be amazed that we just all bought it. And maybe some of you still do. So let me play this. I'm playing it for educational purposes.
On the morning of September 11th, 2001, 19 men armed with box cutters, directed by a man on dialysis in a cave fortress halfway around the world using a satellite phone and a laptop, directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world, overpowering the passengers and the military combat-trained pilots on 4 commercial aircraft before flying those planes wildly off course for over an hour without being molested by a single fighter interceptor. These 19 hijackers, devout religious fundamentalists who like to drink alcohol, snort cocaine, and live with pink-haired strippers, managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes in New York, while in Washington a pilot who couldn't handle a single-engine Cessna was able to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descending 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground, hitting the Pentagon and the Budget Analyst Office, where DoD staffers were working on the mystery of the $2.3 trillion that Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld had announced missing from the Pentagon's coffers in a press conference the day before, on September 10th, 2001. Luckily, the news anchors knew who did it within minutes.
Osama bin Laden.
The pundits knew within hours.
Osama bin Laden.
The administration knew within the day.
Terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them.
And the evidence literally fell into the FBI's lap.
That a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
But for some reason, a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists demanded an investigation into the greatest attack on American soil in history. That investigation was delayed, underfunded, set up to fail, a conflict of interest, and a cover-up from start to finish. It was based on testimony extracted through torture, the records of which were destroyed. It failed to mention the existence of WTC-7, Able Danger, P-TECH, Sibel Edmonds, OBL and the CIA, and the drills of hijacked aircraft being flown into buildings that were being simulated at the precise same time that those events were actually happening. It was lied to by the Pentagon, the CIA, the Bush administration, and as for Bush and Cheney, well, no one knows what they told it because they testified in secret, off the record, not under oath, and behind closed doors. It didn't bother to look at who funded the attacks because that question is ultimately of little practical significance. Still, the 9/11 Commission did brilliantly answering all of the questions the public had, except most of the victims' family members' questions, and pinned blame on all the people responsible, although no one so much as lost their job, determining the attacks were
failure of imagination.
Because
Nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government that could envision flying airplanes into buildings.
except the Pentagon, FEMA, NORAD, and the NRO. The DIA destroyed 2.5 terabytes of data on Able Danger, but that's okay because it probably wasn't important. The SEC destroyed their records on the investigation into the insider trading before the attacks, but that's okay because destroying the records of the largest investigation in SEC history is just part of routine record keeping. NIST has classified the data that they used for their model of WTC-7's collapse, but that's okay because knowing how they made their model of the collapse would jeopardize public safety. The FBI has argued that all material related to their investigation of 9/11 should be kept secret from the public, but that's okay because the FBI probably has nothing to hide. This man never existed, nor is anything he had to say worthy of your attention, and if you say otherwise, you are a paranoid conspiracy theorist and deserve to be shunned by all of humanity. Likewise him, and her, and her, and her, and him. Osama bin Laden lived in a cave fortress in the hills of Afghanistan, but somehow got away. Then he was hiding out in Tora Bora, but somehow got away. Then he lived in Abbottabad for years, taunting the most comprehensive intelligence dragnet employing the most sophisticated technology in the history of the world for a decade, releasing video after video with complete impunity and getting younger and younger as he did so, before finally being found in a daring SEAL team raid which wasn't recorded on video, in which he didn't resist or use his wife as a human shield, and in which these crack special forces operatives panicked and killed this unarmed man, supposedly the best source of intelligence about those dastardly terrorists on the entire planet. Then they dumped his body in the ocean before telling anyone about it. Then a couple dozen of that team's members died in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. This is the story of 9/11, brought to you by the media which told you the hard truths about
his head could be seen to move violently forward.
And
they took the babies out of the incubators.
And
mobile production facilities.
And
the rescue of Jessica Lynch.
If you have any questions about this story, you are a batshit paranoid tinfoil dog-abusing baby hater and will be reviled by everyone. If you love your country and or freedom, happiness, rainbows, rock and roll, puppy dogs, apple pie, and your grandma, you will never ever express doubts about any part of this story to anyone. Ever. This has been a public service announcement by the Friends of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DIA, SEC, MSM, White House, NIST, and the 9/11 Commission. Because ignorance is strength.
Well, that's the account. And that's actually what was, with little exception, that was the account that we were given. And we all just turned around and believed it. It was given to us by an authority. Generally, it came over TV, and what a witchcraft, hypnotism, belief-gramming machine that is. Or the government, and we just accepted it blindly. We didn't investigate it because we're not taught to. We're taught to believe things on truth. So, if you think your beliefs are true, I suggest you try to check a few of them out. Well, now let's move along to the real topic of this podcast, little devil that I call the ego. Now, I believe that he or she is the real decision maker in deciding on what your beliefs and your opinions are. Generally, and as you get to know the ego more and learn more about him or her, you'll find that truth, the accuracy of the data, or even logic isn't a concern.